Alright, now Chris and I are going to show you how to assemble and adjust the Riley Hopkins Win Series presses. The press we're going to be working on today is the 6-color 4-station press. Obviously the press comes in various numbers of sizes, different heads, different print stations, so inherently all the presses are the same. However, each press might vary slightly. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know on your particular model. Chris, why don't you go ahead and show them the various components of this press.
Alright, this here's the base. It's going to be holding your rotating head assembly, which will attach to your print stations. These are your pallets. They will be attached to your print stations, and your shirts will be going on them.
The press also comes with 2 bags of hardware, just in simple brown paper bags, and we'll go over what's in those next. Why don't we go ahead and move to assembly.
Alright. Okay, now we're going to start with the base. We are going to show you how to set it up and level. First off, you're going to need to remove these and these.
So we're just, Chris and I are just going to start taking these apart right now.
Alright, now that you've removed all 8 sets of nuts and bolts, you're going to want to lower these down and then line up your holes. You're most likely going to have to loosen these here to give it a little play to line up your holes here and here.
So once your holes are lined up, you can go ahead and slide the bolts back in place and tighten them down. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now.
Alright, now that you have all 4 legs down and bolted into place, it's time to put the center foot in.
We'll just simply tip this press back and just screw the foot in by hand here. These feet are what you can use to adjust and level your press. We're going to go ahead and put the press back in place. Now, before we start putting the arms and rotating head assembly on it, you're probably going to want to adjust the feet so it's relatively level and it doesn't have a lot of move in it.
First of all, I think I need to...
Once we think we're adjusting, we just simply put some pressure on that. Alright, now that we have the base assembled essentially, we're going to go ahead and lift the center rotating unit onto the base. Bringing over the rotating head unit now. Probably going to need some help with this because it's a very heavy piece. And once you have it up here, you need to adjust these holes so they line up to the appropriate spots on the base here.
Alright, now that you've got your holes all lined up, it's time to start bolting this bad boy down.
Okay, basically on this 6-color 4-station is bolts to the base with 4 outside bolts and 4 inner bolts. The outside bolts have nuts on them that attach and tighten down. The inner bolts are actually threaded into the base. On a 4-color 4-station, for instance, the inner bolts are actually, they're not bolts, they are Allen heads, and there's only 3 of them. So like I said before, all of these presses vary just a little bit, but they're inherently the same. It's always a good idea to put all the bolts down first before you start tightening one.
Alright, now that's all bolted together, it's time to start with the print stations. Your other bag of hardware should have 16 sets, just like this.
The print stations are numbered depending how many print stations are on your press. On this press, for instance, it's numbered 1 through 4. So we want to make sure that we put the corresponding numbers together. Okay. Now, you might want to do this with another person. Go ahead and I'll have Chris over here hold it up and I'll slide some of the nuts through.
Alright, now that you have 4 sets of nuts and bolts in here, leave it loose, like this. You're going to want to run these pins through, just like these holes here, through the opposite side.
Just take a hammer and tap them through. The press should have some type of marks that the metal's been scratched off a little bit, so that'll give you a good idea of where these pinholes are.
We've got marks here and here, and on this it's up here, and on every press it's a little different. It's just a scribe mark. After they're set up at the factory and adjusted, they put a mark in it so you know where to put it when you're assembling the press.
That's another reason why these registration pins are here. At the factory, like Chris just said, everything's set up and pre-adjusted. So then these registration holes are drilled and these pins are placed when you're assembling it so the press will properly align. Let's go ahead and tap these pins in.
Alright, now that your pins are halfway through on either side, it should be, so now it's time to tighten up all 4 nuts and bolts. Now that we've got this print station in place, it's time to do the rest of the 3. Alright, now that you have your print stations in place, it's time to start putting in your bumper bolts. Before we do that, I wanted to show you, sometimes your press will arrive with these springs loose. So what you're going to need to do is bring the 2 neighboring arms down very carefully. These springs are very, very strong. You're not going to want to drop it into this bolt. Just set it in place like so. Take this, just push it forward until your springs can line up with those holes. And just pull back very slowly like you did before. Alright, now for the bumper bolts, you're going to want to lower your arm into a print station like so. Take your bumper bolt and your bumper, run it through. Now you're going to have to line it up with this hole. Press it through, washer, and nut. And that's all you really have to do, tighten that up. Now your arms are ready to go. Alright, now that you have all your bumper bolts in place, your press should look like this, and it should spin freely. Now all you have left to do is put on the printing pellets, or platens, whatever you would like to call them. And one thing I'd like to mention to you, your bumper bolts. These are simply, the rubber cover is simply just a air line. It's a 3/8 inside diameter air hose. You can pick it up at most hardware stores. Just thought I'd let you know because they will wear out eventually. They're very cheap to replace. You can probably do your whole press for under $5. So.
Now our Riley Hopkins Press is fully assembled. We're going to go start showing you how to finish the setup of it and then how to do some basic adjustments. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust all our registration blocks so that our screen arms fit in them snug and tight. All you have to do for this is go ahead and just place the screen arm in the down position. Then go ahead and take these screws. They're little plastic bolts that can be tightened. Alright, once these registration nylon bolts are snug and tight, we're going to go ahead and raise the arm back up. Now, basically what these do is they serve a purpose because they keep this registration block right here underneath the screen arm very nice and so it doesn't wear down against this metal. Over time, these nylon bolts will wear out, so you will want to take a wrench and simply tighten them up as they begin to wear down. Once they're all the way worn down, they can be replaced for a couple cents. Alright, the off-contact adjustments on this Riley Hopkins Press are located both in the back of the screen clamp. Basically, all you have to do is simply loosen these bolts. They're loosened with a size 14 metric wrench, and this whole screen clamp can be raised and lowered and angled if needed. And it looks like our screen's a bit high. So we're going to go ahead and loosen these bolts back here, which will in turn lower the screen clamp a little bit as needed. And once again, you want these to be about 2 pennies high, or about an 1/8 inch off, or 16 inch off the pallet. Now that our screen off contact is completely adjusted, we're ready to show you how to do the micro registration, or in this case joystick registration adjustments. All you need to do to adjust this is simply loosen these joystick registration knobs. Once that's in place, I can make big adjustments, small adjustments at a 360-degree radius. If I need to tighten these registration knobs back down so the job will stay intact and registered throughout the entire print process. And go ahead, now you're ready to start printing and making some money.